What's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting edition of Men Cave. My name is Chris, and this is your first time seeing me. Welcome to Men Cave, aka Brothers Keeper, aka Men's Community is a rendezvous, men's rendezvous for men of all ages, size, qualification, age, and what have you. Whether you are single, a new family, started a new family, you're a middle-aged man, you're an empty nester, welcome. We can make do of your wealth of experience. And if you're brand new guys, starting off your life is a good platform for you to understand and try and figure yourself out as you grow. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I post at least twice a week, and recently I went on an break and I'm back. So this is an opportunity for us to bond and share together. Kindly like, share, and turn on the notification button so that every time I post a video, you will be the first to know. On this edition of Men Cave, I want to talk about, like you said, you saw in the topic, um, African men and the challenges of living abroad. If you've been paying attention to what is going on the social media, on even on mainstream media, you see the challenges that African men. When I talk about African men here, I want to try and bring about a separation. I'm not talking about black people who grew up, was born abroad. I'm talking about black man who was born in Africa, who spent the better part of his life or early life in Africa and decided to relocate abroad for one reason or the other. All right. So it is important for us to highlight the challenges an African man goes through, African man and the challenges they go through abroad. So you see various stories from stories of deportation. African men who have relocated abroad have gone through deportation. They go through spending time in jail. They go through different challenges in their marriages, and they go through all kinds of difficulties. And this will be like a start off of a series on the African men and the challenges they go through living here. First off, I want to say that living abroad, whether in America, Canada, UK, or in Europe, there's a system that has been established. All right. Unlike back home in Africa, where there is no, the system there is different. I don't want to say there's no system or there's no structure. The structure is still at this, if you like, preliminary stages, or it's not at par with what we have internationally, like what we have abroad. Let's say, for example, if you want to do an ID card, for example, there are various levels or stages you have to go through, to be able to obtain an ID card. Now, it now has to do with whether it's a federal ID card or a state ID card, or you can run for both. And, abroad, the system are so structured that the different departments are overlapping each other. If you want to do motor vehicle license, you have to go through different stages of the department to be able to do that. It goes to Homeland Security, it goes to immigrations. So this department overlap each other. So also the experience for a black man. If you come here, there are various stages that you have to go through. First of all, for somebody who's probably in his 20 in his post teenage years, you're going to experience a culture shock different from what you see in the movies. You're going to encounter different things. It's going to be far from what you are experiencing while you are in Africa. And you cannot prepare enough, no matter how much of information that you have. You cannot prepare enough for the changes or the transformation that you're going to go through, or the level of information that you have to take in. Through So it's more or less like you're going to have a reorientation on how to live. Because if you do not have the proper orientation on how to live, proper orientation on how to work, proper orientation on how that you have and the challenges that comes, you might end up on the wrong side of the law. And these are some of the challenges that African men who come in as adults face when they come abroad, particularly when they come with their families. Is a whole different kettle of fish, a whole different challenge that they go through, because they have to contain with having to understand themselves, understand how they fit into the system, understand how the system works for them, now understand how to manage their families, understand how to process their families through the system, school system, feeding, commuting, and all of that. And if the wife is also going to work, what does the system allow? If your wife is going to work, if you have children, how are you going to juggle your work, your wife, and the kids and commuting? And there are strict laws, that you need to observe when it comes to being a man in living abroad. When it comes to having your family here, if you are bringing your family here, if you are coming alone, there are system and there are structures you need to observe. And these are the things that form the bulk part of your living here, and how you are able to go around these different structures will determine your existence here, how you live, how long you can be able to stay, if you can be able to put up with it, if you think it's a good fit. More importantly, living abroad is not for everybody. What I mean is that I know people who have access, who have opportunity to relocate abroad, but do not want to do so because they probably have had the opportunity to come for holidays and perhaps, oh, the system is not for me. Some people are not ready to have a mental shift, because that is what it is. When you come here, it's a mental shift. You have to be ready to adapt to a new life, a new form of living. Let me give you, for example, the weather. For example, if you live in Africa, and this part of West Africa where I come from, like in the sub-Sahara, where you basically have two weathers. You have the rainy season and you have the dry season, and the heat is about 100 degrees, but between 12 and 2 o'clock. You know, it is hot. It is hot weather. And you were born in that weather. You grew up in that weather. You are already adapt. Your system has adapted to that weather style of living. Now, when you relocate to Europe, where it has 4 seasons, you have to now adapt to the system of living in the 4 seasons. You need to understand what season and what happens at such in the various seasons. You understand? It's different from the 2 seasons that you observe in Africa. When you come abroad, you have to observe 4 seasons. There's a summer, there's a fall, there's spring, and there's winter. Now, the different seasons have their different clothings. Different seasons have the different ways where you walk and approach it. So this is an first-hand orientation, or reorientation, what you have to adapt to, and what you have to take in and understand. Let me give you a case in point. One of the challenges I encountered when I came here, like we're talking about right now, was the weather. You know, I picked up a job. I leave, and one of the days I went, I wasn't properly kitted. I think it was, even though the weather was kind of okay in the afternoon when I left the house. I realized that I had to, go get something. So when I left, I didn't take cognizance of the weather. I didn't look at the weather situation to know what the evening would be like. Because the fact that the sun was out in the afternoon doesn't mean I was going to stay warm throughout the night. So when I left, I didn't check the weather. I just wore something, that fitted that weather at the time, and I went. So coming back in the evening, boy, was it cold. The temperature has drastically dropped, and it was really windy, chilly cold. And I was at the bus stop. I was commuting. I had to jump the bus, and the bus took a long time to come. And when it is fall, it gets dark pretty quickly, and the weather was dark, and it was windy, and it was cold, and I was shivering at the bus stop. I was shivering. If the bus hadn't come, or if the bus didn't show up at all, I didn't know what would have happened, and nobody was going to stop for anybody. It was a lonely bus stop. It was not a normal everybody's come around bus stop. It was one of those lonely bus stops where you don't really get to see a lot of people come in, because it was an industrial environment where I want to go get my check. So you can see that environment, because I was new. I wasn't ready for that and experience at the time, because I was poorly, or I didn't get enough orientation. So one of the challenges you have to get orientation or reorientation for is the weather. Unlike home, where you have 2 seasons, here you have 4 seasons. You have to know what clothing to wear at the different times, and understand that when the sun is high up there, whether on spring or on fall, it does not mean that that is how the weather is going to be for the rest of the day. You also have to understand how to dress up warm. You also need to know when summer comes, because you have taken a lot of cold season. The summer is going to be a sharp contrast, and your body is going to need to adapt to the changes that comes with it. So this is one of the challenges that an African man will face living abroad. You are going to experience a culture shock. You're going to experience weather shock, and you need to be ready for it. And you need to be able to stand up to it if you want to spend or want to live your life here. And this challenge has become something that a lot of people are not comfortable with. All right, somebody will tell you, oh, they are not, uh, they don't enjoy cold weather. So when you don't want to enjoy cold weather, what do? You need to reevaluate your health to know if it's something you can cope with. If it's something that you can um, walk around, like get yourself ready. For example, when the weather begins to change, you're going to the cold season, like in the fall. You're encouraged to get your flu shots, that will help you manage the weather, your system, your nasal system, and all of that, so that you don't catch anything, or so that the weather don't put you down. So that you don't become, congested and all of that. So one of the challenges that the African man go through abroad, living abroad, is the weather. You're going to come in contact, if you then it becomes, for those who are not very good at determining whether they are good at cold or warm. When you come here, you're going to find out. The best time to come to visit, either in Europe or America and the UK, is during June, July is the best time to visit. When you come in, it's about the same weather back home in Africa. So it helps you to look, unwind. It prepares you, for the weather. But when you if you if you if you make a visit during fall or during spring or during winter, it can be very, very challenging. It can be very stressful. All right. So one of the challenges of an African man, living abroad, is the weather. The weather is, because you were born on the sub-Saharan Africa, where it is very, very hot, and your body has adapted. The challenge you're going to have here is adapting to the weather condition. And all you basically got to do is be conversant with the weather report. Know what the weather is. When you wake up in the morning, you're setting up for the day. You go listen to the weather forecast. Understand what the weather is. If you understand what the weather is, it helps you to know It will help you to determine what to wear, what shoe to wear, and how to commute. If you're commuting, you know if it's going to snow, you know what to prepare. If it's going to be windy, you know what to wear. If it's going to partly be windy and partly raining, you know you got to pick up an umbrella. And so that's some of the heads up on African man and the challenges of living abroad. And we're talking about weather. You know, the weather can be very, very challenging. There are some areas in like in America where they experience tornado. So you got to be ready for that. So it is very, very important for you to pay attention to the weather report every time. Sometimes they don't catch the weather in the morning. They don't catch the weather for the rest of the day in the morning. You need to tune into your app. You know, pay attention to your phone, pay attention to breaking news on the storms that might break out, you know, all of a sudden, because they are just weather reports. They to try to understand what the environment is going to be, you know, in your area or in your own neck of the wood, like we say. So it's important for you to pay attention to weather. And you know, there'll be times when the weather is not really bad, but you just need to prepare for it. So one of the biggest challenges is having to prepare. You need to take 2 3 steps ahead to prepare yourself for the day. Unlike back home in Africa, you just pick up your bag and you're off, you know, because there are just mainly two seasons: the rainy season and the dry season. You already know if it's not sunny, you know that if the weather is a bit gloomy, it's likely going to rain, and you can shoulder that. It's quite different here. You know, you need to understand the different seasons, and there are basically 4 seasons. You need to know what happens in those 4 seasons. You need to know how to prepare in those 4 seasons. You need to know the right gears to get yourself ready in those 4 seasons, you know, and how to move around, whether you have a car and you do not have a car, and how to generally comport yourself in those seasons so that you are not in harm's way and you are safe throughout those seasons. And that's the much I can take. If there's something I'm missing out, comment down below, shoot me a mail, or you can add to whatever it is that I already spoken about. You know, African men and the challenges of living abroad. We have talked about weather. We can circle back on it if I missed out on anything. Until I come away same time, have a fabulous rest of the day. My name is Chris. Don't be a stranger. Let us see more of you on this men's rendezvous, aka Brother Skipper, aka Men's Cave. Bye for now.